Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be going to one of the least favorite places of many, many people.
So it must be the dentist.
Exactly. That place where you have to go every 6 months, but
You probably don't go.
you probably don't. I know I don't go every
me
6
neither.
months. So yeah, we're going to be going to the dentist. And of course, we're going to be looking at a lot of great vocabulary related to teeth and all that crazy stuff dentists do.
Yes. And we'll also learn some really interesting phrases. So Marco, let's get started with our vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, in vocabulary preview today we have 2 words. Let's take a look at the first one. Toothache.
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 Okay, so we've seen before this this ending ache, right?
Right.
It means it hurts.
Exactly.
So again, a toothache would be
A hurting tooth.
a hurting tooth.
Yes.
We can also say stomach ache, headache.
Yep.
Pretty much everything can
Ache.
ache.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our next word, X-ray.
X-ray.
X-ray. X-ray.
Okay, pretty easy word. So when you go to the doctor, many times you'll get an X-ray.
It is a picture of your bones.
Right. So that's an X-ray.
All right, well, we're going to hear both of these words in the dialogue. So why don't we listen as Gary visits his dentist?
Hey, Gary. Great to see you again. Please, have a seat. So, tell me what seems to be the problem.
Thanks, Doc. I've got a really bad toothache. I can't eat anything, and look, my face is all swollen. I think it might be my wisdom teeth.
Well, let's have a look. Open wide. This doesn't look good. Well, it looks like you have a cavity and your crown is loose. We'll need to put in a filling before it gets any worse. And the crown probably needs to be refitted. I'm going to order some x-rays.
Is it gonna hurt?
No, not at all. Just lay back and relax. Okay, spit.
Okay, that always happens. The dentist says, no, it's not going to hurt. Don't worry about it.
But it always hurts much more than he says.
Exactly. So in this dialogue, we saw some interesting words when the dentist was describing what problems Gary had.
Yes. So why don't we look at those now in language takeaway?
Language takeaway.
All right, let's take a look at our first word.
So Gary said that his face was all swollen.
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 So swollen is an adjective, right, Marco?
Right. So his face is or was swollen.
It was bigger.
Yeah, his face was bigger than normal.
Yes. Often when you hurt yourself, that part of your body becomes swollen.
Swollen, right. So you have to put some ice on it usually, and then the swelling will go down.
And that's the noun, the swelling.
Right. The swelling. And, well, the verb to swell.
All right, 3 words for the price of 1.
So let's listen to some examples of how we would use the swelling, swollen, and to swell.
Example 1.
My nose is swollen. It's the size of a football.
Example 2. Put some ice on your foot and the swelling will go down. Example 3.
I got bitten by a spider and my hand is swelling up.
All right, so Gary's face was swollen and he thought that it was his wisdom teeth.
Wisdom teeth.
Wisdom teeth.
Okay, so this is interesting. Wisdom is like wise.
Yeah, knowledge.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
So these teeth, they're not knowledgeable, but they're called wisdom teeth.
They're the teeth that grow last in your mouth, right?
Right. They are the last teeth at the very end of your mouth.
Yes, and usually you get them when you're about 20.
And since they come out at this age, sometimes they interfere or they hurt a little bit, so you have to get them taken out.
Yes. All right, wisdom teeth.
Wisdom teeth. Okay, now for our next word and something that we all got as children. Cavity.
Cavity.
A cavity.
A cavity. It's a hole in your tooth.
A hole in your tooth. And it's caused by
Too much sugar.
too much sugar, right?
Yeah.
Or not brushing your teeth enough.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone had it. I think as children, cavities.
I never had a cavity.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't have much sugar?
I guess I was a bit of a health nut when I was a kid. Well,
okay.
no, I wasn't. My mom was. No, I guess not. All right. But enough about my eating habits. Let's talk about our next word, crown.
Crown.
A crown.
So a crown. This is interesting.
We're not talking kings and queens.
Right. That's the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
No, a crown is actually the visible part of your teeth.
Okay, so there's one part of your tooth that's inside that you can't see, right?
That's called the root.
Yes. So when he said your crown is loose, was he talking really about the actual tooth?
So sometimes people will lose a tooth or have a really bad cavity. So the dentist needs to make a new crown or a new visible part of the tooth for you. So sometimes it'll be made of gold,
Yep.
You know?
Or porcelain.
porcelain.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So a crown, it's like a really, really, really big filling.
A
Yep.
crown. So his crown needed to be refitted or put back into place.
Yes. Now our final word, a filling.
Filling.
A filling.
A filling.
So I just said this word previously. Now, when you have a cavity, you need to fill it in.
Right. You need to fill it with something.
Yes.
It's usually some sort of paste.
And it gets really hard,
And it
just
get-
like your tooth.
Exactly. So then it covers up this cavity. Filling.
A filling.
I have many fillings. I wasn't very healthy as a kid.
All right, not a good toothbrusher.
Exactly. So why don't we listen to this dialogue again, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the interesting phrases that the doctor used.
Hey, Gary. Great to see you again. Please have a seat. So, tell me what seems to be the problem.
Thanks, Doc. I've got a really bad toothache. I can't eat anything, and look, my face is all swollen. I think it might be my wisdom teeth.
Well, let's have a look. Open wide. This doesn't look good. Well, it looks like you have a cavity and your crown is loose. We'll need to put in a filling before it gets any worse. And the crown probably needs to be refitted. I'm going to order some x-rays.
Is it gonna hurt?
No, not at all. Just lay back and relax. Okay, spit.
Well, the dentist used 3 really interesting phrases, and I want to look at the first one. What seems to be the problem?
What seems to be the problem?
What seems to be the problem?
Okay. Very easy little sentence to ask somebody what's wrong.
Exactly.
Right.
And I mean, these are small, easy words, but when you put them together, they sound really natural and really fluent.
So if you ask somebody what seems to be the problem, it's very polite.
Yep.
And it's a very good way of asking what's wrong.
Yes.
All right.
Our next phrase, also made up of simple words. Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
So this is a phrase that maybe your mechanic or your dentist or your doctor will say.
Or anyone.
Right. Let's
Yeah.
have a look.
Let's look at it and see what the problem is.
Okay. Let's have a look.
Okay. And our final phrase, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
So I can use this phrase for an object, right?
Yeah.
Like, this house doesn't look good.
Yes, but here it's used a little bit differently. So why don't we listen to some examples to help us understand the meaning?
Example 1. John told me it doesn't look good for me. I probably won't get the job. Example 2.
It doesn't look good for Michael Jackson. He's in a lot of debt.
Example 3. You know, the economy doesn't look very good.
Okay, so in the examples, we can see that they are using it for the situation.
Yeah.
It looks maybe problematic.
Yeah. So when you say it doesn't look good, you basically mean there are going to be problems.
All right. It doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Okay. So great phrases, great words. Let's listen to our Gary at the dentist one more time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
Hey, Gary. Great to see you again. Please, have a seat. So, tell me what seems to be the problem.
Thanks, Doc. I've got a really bad toothache. I can't eat anything, and look, my face is all swollen. I think it might be my wisdom teeth.
Well, let's have a look. Open wide. This doesn't look good. Well, it looks like you have a cavity and your crown is loose. We'll need to put in a filling before it gets any worse, and the crown probably needs to be refitted. I'm going to order some x-rays.
Is it gonna hurt?
No, not at all. Just lay back and relax. Okay, spit.
Well, Marco, speaking of dentists, have you ever had an experience like this where you've spat out a tooth at the dentist?
Well, nothing so serious as this, but actually, recently when I was in Cambodia...
Oh, right. You called us from Cambodia.
Yeah. Well, our taxi driver offered us to have some local food. And he said, well, we're going to have dog. So that was interesting. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good. But, you know, if you get around the fact that it's a dog.
So what does this have to do with your teeth?
I was eating it and I bit a bone that was hidden.
Okay.
And I chipped my tooth.
So you broke part of your tooth.
Yeah, like half of it, which I had already chipped before. So I had to go to the dentist. And so the dentist created a new crown with, not with gold or porcelain, actually with a paste.
Oh.
And then it becomes hard and it looks normal. It doesn't even look like I have a fake crown, so to say.
But dentists can be really expensive. So how much did this cost?
Well, this was for the bargain price of $10.
$10.
$10. That's how much
Nice.
it cost.
So we should all go to Cambodia for dentistry.
But yeah, because actually it was pretty good. He looked really young though. I was kind of scared because when he walked in, he looked like he was 19. But I asked him his age and he was like 30.
Okay, well, you're very trusting.
Yeah.
The instinct to protect our teeth has trailed human history for millennia. Yet the methods and motives behind oral care have never remained static. When we reach back to the earliest evidence of routine care, we find frayed twigs buried in Egyptian tombs and chew sticks carved from aromatic tree branches in ancient Mesopotamia. Simple tools whose fibers could scrub away food debris while releasing antiseptic sap. That rudimentary impulse to clean the mouth set the stage for a slow but steady technological march, one that would eventually give rise to nylon-bristled toothbrushes, powdered dentifrices, and the modern fluoridated pastes we take for granted today. In the 19th century, boar hair bristles still dominated European bathrooms, and chalky tooth powders, often laced with charcoal, salt, or even crushed porcelain, served as makeshift cleaners. It was only after World War II, when DuPont's nylon filaments became widely available, that the toothbrush assumed its current shape. Durable, hygienic, inexpensive, the fluoride revolution followed soon afterward. Pioneering epidemiological studies in Colorado Springs and Grand Rapids revealed that trace fluoride in community water dramatically reduced the prevalence of cavities without obvious side effects. Toothpaste manufacturers were quick to capitalize, and by the late 1950s sodium fluoride had become a staple ingredient in every large Western brand, ushering in the first truly preventive, rather than merely cosmetic, era of home oral care. Yet daily brushing and fluoridated paste are only one side of the prevention equation. Diet, and specifically sugar load, remains the primary ecological driver of caries across societies. In the mid-20th century, bilingual teams of dental anthropologists fanned out across the globe to compare so-called traditional and modernizing populations. Wherever refined sucrose could infiltrate a diet once anchored in slow-release starches, cavity rates spiked within a single generation. A stark example came from the island of Vipholm, Sweden, where a series of ethically controversial experiments in the 1940s fed institutionalized patients sticky toffees at controlled intervals. Researchers confirmed what indigenous oral traditions already suspected: frequency trumps volume. A single large dessert, consumed with a meal, is less cariogenic than a seemingly modest but steady background drizzle of hard candies or sweetened coffee. Later molecular studies clarified why. Mutant streptococci, the chief bacterial architects of tooth decay, flourish in a low pH environment that sticky, fermentable sugars perpetuate. Their acidic byproducts dissolve enamel crystals, and once dentin is exposed, the progression accelerates. Thus, public health agencies now champion a two-pronged strategy: lower the total sugar burden and compress what remains into structured, post-meal sweet windows, limiting grazing throughout the day. Recognizing that no single household can wage this battle alone, many governments launched nationwide caries prevention campaigns in the late 20th century. Brazil's Brazil Sorrident, Scotland's Child Smile, and the United States' Healthy People initiatives all share a common template. Legislate water fluoridation where feasible, subsidize fissure sealants in low-income schools, and deliver culturally tailored oral health curricula before habits calcify. Community dental therapists reinforce these programs on the ground, visiting daycare centers with puppet shows and distributing chewable disclosing tablets that stain plaque a vivid fuchsia, translating an invisible threat into a child's eye-catching science experiment. In parallel, policy architects leverage mass media campaigns, television jingles, TikTok challenges, bus stop posters, to repackage mundane advice in emotionally resonant sound bites. Brush 2 by 2 minutes, twice a day. Early evaluations are encouraging. Since the late 1970s, the mean decayed missing field (DMF) surfaces in 12-year-olds have fallen more than 50% in fluoridated regions of Australia, Ireland, and the United States. Even so, inequalities persist. Immigrant neighborhoods with limited English proficiency, rural towns dependent on well water, and urban food deserts awash in sugar-sweetened beverages still shoulder a disproportionate disease burden. The evolution from individual hygiene to systemic prevention is therefore unfinished. It began with the twig between ancient teeth, progressed through nylon bristles and fluoride chemistry, and expanded into sweeping public health architecture that reframes caries as a modifiable social condition rather than a personal failing. Each advance has widened the circle of responsibility, from personal discipline to household diet to municipal water policy to national health education. Preventive dentistry now lives not just in the bathroom mirror, but in school cafeterias, zoning ordinances, grocery taxes, and global treaties on food marketing. The story of modern oral care is thus one of concentric circles. routine care radiating outward into public health, each layer demanding collaboration if the next generation is to inherit a future where seeing the dentist is less about drilling and filling and more about sustaining a healthy smile throughout a lifetime. The move from broad prevention to chairside intervention brings us into a clinic that looks and sounds nothing like the one our parents visited. The moment a patient sits down, the first impression is no longer the metallic click of traditional dental film, but the quiet sweep of a handheld wand that flashes a fan of harmless light across each tooth. That wand is part of an intraoral scanning system. It collects hundreds of digital photographs every second, stitches them together in real time, and builds a fully navigable three-dimensional map of the mouth. On a wall-mounted monitor, the molars appear as rotating models that can be enlarged, sliced, and color-coded to show pockets of decay, microcracks, or early gum recession. This visual clarity changes the conversation. Instead of the dentist describing a shadow on a film that only a trained eye can interpret, the patient can zoom in on a translucent cusp and see the exact line of weakness. The same logic applies to cone beam computed tomography, 3D CBCT, which captures the deeper structures the scanner cannot reach. Nerve canals, sinuses, even the shape of an impacted wisdom tooth hiding beneath bone. One 30-second rotation replaces several two-dimensional X-rays, saves radiation, and lets the clinician plot a precise, minimally invasive access path for surgery or implant placement. Digital mapping is only the first half of the upgrade. Once a problem is defined, computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing take over. In the past, fixing a fractured crown meant 2 appointments at least a week apart. The dentist would take a physical impression, gooey alginate loaded onto a tray, and send it to an outside laboratory. Now the intraoral scan feeds the data directly to software that proposes an anatomically shaped replacement in minutes. If the contours look right, the dentist hits accept, and a chairside mill begins carving the crown from a block of ceramic while the patient watches. 20 minutes later, the restoration is tried in, glazed, and bonded. The second appointment evaporates. The same ecosystem supports clear aligner therapy. Those transparent trays that straighten teeth without brackets are produced by importing a scanned model, defining a final smile, and ordering a dozen slight increments that guide enamel to its new position over a few months. For teenagers anxious about prom photographs or adults hesitant to wear conspicuous hardware to client meetings, the appeal is obvious. Orthodontic control that once relied on bending wire with pliers now relies on algorithms that calculate optimal force, predict root trajectories, and schedule when each aligner must be swapped. The pain is milder, the hygiene easier, and the social confidence higher. Technology also reshapes how and when care begins. A rising share of consultations start online. Patients upload smartphone photos, a scanned referral, or even screenshots from a home teledentistry kit. Within a secure portal, the dentist annotates the images, records a short video reply, and attaches a treatment estimate. That initial triage filters minor questions. Is this chipped corner urgent? From emergencies that require an immediate chair. It cuts travel time for rural families and lowers the anxiety barrier for anyone who dreaded the sound of the waiting room drill. On the administrative side, direct electronic billing shortens the line at reception. Insurance companies receive coded claims minutes after a procedure is completed. In many cities, copayments are calculated automatically, and a patient's phone vibrates with a digital receipt before the numbness has worn off. The obvious question, of course, is cost. Although the upfront price of CD/M mills, scanners, and 3D printers can exceed the annual rent of a small clinic, the per-unit expense drops as usage grows. A single-visit crown eliminates separate lab fees, impression material, and a second injection. Clear aligners require less chair time than bracket adjustments, freeing the schedule for new patients. Some practices pass those savings along. Others reinvest in further upgrades. Either way, the economic narrative shifts from technology is a luxury to technology prevents waste. These changes ripple into the emotional fabric of the dental encounter. When a monitor displays a high-resolution fracture line, informed consent becomes simpler because comprehension is visual and immediate. When a mill sculpts a crown out of solid ceramic visible to both dentist and patient, the process no longer hides behind laboratory doors. It feels transparent, almost collaborative. And when a follow-up question can be answered through a secure chat instead of a rushed phone call between appointments, trust grows outside clinic hours. Digital dentistry, then, is not only a matter of sharper images and faster restorations. It is a redrafting of expectations, responsibilities, and the mutual respect that can flourish when data replace guesswork and convenience softens fear. The moment a patient crosses the threshold of a clinic, whether that clinic stands in Sao Paulo, Stockholm, or Seoul, conversation begins to shape the quality of care as decisively as any drill or scanner. A dentist who greets a first-time visitor with a warm handshake and a single open-ended question, "What brings you in today?" has already planted a seed of partnership. Yet the next moves on both sides of the chair are choreographed by cultural expectations that reach far beyond oral anatomy. One of the first tests is the style of questioning. In many North American practices, efficiency is prized, so the clinician may dive into a rapid checklist: allergies, surgeries, smoking habits. In parts of Latin America, the opening exchange is often less direct. A few minutes of small talk about family or weather allows trust to bloom before personal health issues surface. Patients accustomed to that rhythm can feel jarred when a provider jumps straight to medical history without the buffer of courtesy. Conversely, a Scandinavian dentist who pauses for unhurried silence, an accepted signal of respect for patient autonomy, might be mistaken for uncertain or indifferent in regions where energetic reassurance is valued. The mismatch is rarely intentional, yet misunderstandings over something as simple as pace or eye contact can erode confidence before a single tooth is examined. Once the diagnostic process unfolds, informed communication becomes the hinge on which consent swings. Radiographs, intraoral videos, and printed treatment plans are meant to make risks transparent, but transparency travels in more than one language. In clinics where English is second or third on the roster, providers face a choice that now echoes through telehealth platforms as well. Simplify explanations and risk losing nuance, or preserve technical vocabulary and watch comprehension falter. The most successful compromise borrows from universal design. Color-coded diagrams replace dense paragraphs. Bite-sized audio recordings summarize home care steps in multiple languages. Short quizzes confirm understanding without sounding like exams. These tactics protect dignity while guarding against the silent nod that masks confusion. Beyond tools, tone matters. In East Asian cultures influenced by Confucian hierarchies, patients may hesitate to contradict medical authority. They wait for permission to ask questions. A dentist who ends each segment with "Does that make sense so far?" and holds eye contact long enough for a real answer, sends the message that curiosity is welcome. In contrast, some Western patients expect a brisk exchange of pros and cons and feel patronized by excessive elaboration. The art lies in reading cues and adjusting mid-sentence, something digital scripts cannot fully automate. Pain perception is another arena where culture and biology intersect. Research shows that individual pain thresholds vary not only with genetics and anxiety levels, but also with the narratives people learn about suffering and endurance. In parts of Southern Europe, vocal expressions of pain are socially accepted. A patient will not hesitate to groan the moment a probe hits a sensitive spot. Northern European norms may frame stoicism as maturity, so the same stimulus triggers minimal outward reaction. For American teenagers who grew up with numbing gel on every playground scrape, the idea of dental work without strong local anesthesia feels archaic. Yet older generations in rural India may decline injections altogether, fearing side effects or extra cost. These expectations affect how much anesthetic a clinician offers and how quickly top-ups are proposed. Misjudgment can breed resentment on either side. Patients might accuse dentists of being callous, while dentists may feel their expertise is being second-guessed. The only reliable bridge is explicit discussion before the needle comes out. Asking, "How do you usually handle dental pain?" Or, "Tell me about your last extraction," uncovers stories richer than any pain scale. Communicating across cultures is easier when oral health education starts early and speaks the dialect of daily life. School programs that mock drill brushing on oversized plastic molars still work, but TikTok videos showing a 30-second floss challenge reach teenagers who rarely set down their phones. Community workshops in migrant neighborhoods thrive when local grandmothers demonstrate sugar-free dessert recipes alongside the hygienist's plaque-disclosing tablets. Storytelling carries more weight than statistics. A Syrian father hearing of a relative's implant complications abroad will absorb post-surgery care tips faster than through pamphlets alone. At the policy level, municipal water fluoridation remains one of the lowest-cost preventive tools, yet its adoption often depends on public trust. Multilingual town hall forums where residents grill scientists reduce fear more effectively than abstract press releases. Even insurance forms become educational instruments when they show in plain language how a 6-month cleaning today forestalls a 4-figure root canal tomorrow. Digital platforms multiply these possibilities, but also magnify gaps. A virtual reality module that rehearses a child's first visit can desensitize fear, but only if headsets are affordable in community centers. AI chatbots can triage late-night toothaches and dispatch emergency advice, yet they must learn idioms beyond standard English. A patient who types "My jaw is killing me after nasi lemak" expects the bot to infer spicy food may have aggravated a cavity, not to ask which country he is texting from. Data-driven equity means feeding the machine stories from diverse accents, dietary customs, and metaphors for pain. In clinical rooms, the future of culturally informed dentistry will be measured not by the sharpness of digital scanners, but by the flexibility of the people who wield them. When a practitioner can toggle between scientific precision and narrative empathy, between diagrams that quantify and anecdotes that humanize, the boundary between doctor and patient blurs into collaboration.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Sit down.
Seat.
Tooth pain.
Toothache.
Some parts are bigger than others due to a certain disease.
Swollen.
One of the 4 large teeth at the back of the mouth, which grows only in one's adulthood.
Wisdom tooth.
Take a glance.
Have a look.
A hole in a tooth.
Cavity.
The part of the tooth which can be seen.
Crown.
Something that fills a hole in a tooth.
Filling.
A medical examination that takes a picture of your bones.
X-rays.
To use a thin thread or string to clean between your teeth.
Floss.
A liquid that is used to clean your mouth and teeth and make your breath smell better.
Mouthwash.
A disease in which the gums become red, swollen, and sore.
Gingivitis.
A thin coating that forms on the teeth and contains bacteria.
Plaque.
Used to describe when someone has very bad breath.
Dog breath. Let's try that faster.
Sit down.
Seat.
Take a glance.
Have a look.
The part of the tooth which can be seen.
Crown.
A thin coating that forms on the teeth and contains bacteria.
Plaque.
Something that fills a hole in a tooth.
Filling.
A liquid that is used to clean your mouth and teeth and make your breath smell better.
Mouthwash.
A disease in which the gums become red, swollen, and sore.
Gingivitis.
One of the 4 large teeth at the back of the mouth, which grows only in one's adulthood.
Wisdom tooth.
Used to describe when someone has very bad breath.
Dog breath.
Some parts are bigger than others due to a certain disease.
Swollen.
To use a thin thread or string to clean between your teeth.
Floss.
A hole in a tooth.
Cavity.
Tooth pain.
Toothache.
A medical examination that takes a picture of your bones.
X-rays. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. My nose is swollen. It's the size of a football. Put some ice on your foot and the swelling will go down. I got bitten by a spider and my hand is swelling up. John told me that it doesn't look good for me. I probably won't get the job. It doesn't look good for Michael Jackson. He's in a lot of debt. You know, the economy doesn't look very good. I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I can't eat anything. You're going to have to get your wisdom teeth pulled. I think my wisdom teeth are coming in. Cavity. My tooth is really hurting. I think I have a cavity. Cavity. If you don't brush your teeth, you'll get cavities. Cavity. You can see on this X-ray that you have 4 cavities. Have a look. So you're having car trouble. Let's have a look at the engine. Have a look. Let's have a look at your computer and see what the problem is. Have a look. Let me have a look at your report.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and gained some new insights. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes. See you next time.